Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your perspective on the world. And welcome. My name is Brandon Waddell, Chartered Market Technician, and I'm going to take a look at some of the popular cryptocurrencies out there, do a little bit of analysis on the charts there to let you get an idea of what I'm thinking for the week coming up here. Anyway, looking at the weekly chart of the granddaddy of them all, Bitcoin, we still have higher lows and higher highs, so not in a bearish trend, but we are seeing a heck of a lot of weakness. Our next weekly demand is not until under 20,000, so we'll see if we're breaking down to that point. But last week we tried to rally a bit. We just gave it all right back after that indecision. We got nothing but selling pressure. Even though it's a green candle still, a huge topping tail is a ton of selling pressure. Anyway, we'll dive into this on a daily time frame to see if we get an idea of where it's going to go. We actually did form a new supply zone at the high, rally, base, and drop. Although it's not complete yet, we actually need a second new low after the first. And really, we've been in this area quite a few times before. We did make a new high compared to the last peak. And the next supply zone above, which, as of right now, we're still pretty bearish, so I don't know if we're going to get back up there, but that's at 50,400. So right now, the current zone that we're looking at, which is forming, is this 43,357 to 45,349. As far as moving to the downside and where targets might be, we'll take a horizontal line and look back. And it looks like we got a little zone that we're coming into right now. As you can see, we've got rally, base, and rally coming out of 32,607.9, 31,722.4. And then continuing to go back, in case that one doesn't hold, let's see if we've got another target to the downside before we get to that 19,000. We should. All this is tested, so it doesn't look very good actually. The nearest area of demand, drop, base, and rally at 23,837, which I've been calling for really for months now. So we'll see. This may be the actual move to the downside that we get to that area, but lots of stalling along the way. Like I said, we've got nothing until about 32,607. Then to the 23,837 target that I'm expecting it eventually to give us a pretty good bounce from. So moving down to the 4-hour time frame, actually, I'm not really seeing anything else here. So going to the 240 and resetting. Let's see what we got going on. Ooh, we got a new supply zone. Might even be able to short here. As you can see, we got drop, base, drop. We actually have a little zone above that as well. Kind of overlapping unless you take away the bottom wick. There you have drop, base, drop, base, drop. But anyway, the nearest one that I'm looking at is 41,445 to 41,920. Obviously, with the volatility, we could overshoot a little bit, but really good selling pressure coming out of that. The only thing that we're missing is we didn't break a prior low on that move down. Matter of fact, we're bouncing from an area of demand right now. Maybe. Yep. Oh, yeah, this is it. Mark it correctly. You've got drop, base, 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 and there's your rally. So as prices are coming down, you can see that we are pausing before that entry or before entering into the zone. However, we've got way too much bearish momentum for that zone to hold. It's got no chance. So what we are currently doing is correcting. Right here you can see we've got a retracement going on the most recent impulse down. So we're not done. We're likely to keep retracing a little bit more, perhaps to the 39,764 area, or maybe we do stall here and continue down. If that's the case, we've got our impulse correction. Our next target would be 37,563 to the downside. If we can continue beyond that point, then we've got 36,290. Now, if we do retrace deeper than we are right now, and go up to this level I mentioned, I would simply change the numbers just slightly, as you can see. Nothing too major. Overall, nothing but bearishness on this particular security. So we may be done with retracing. If we do breach the low of this candle, putting in a high, so if we breach this low, which would be 39,135, then expect us to shoot down to 37,563. If we don't, and we break the high, look for us to bounce off one of these Fibonacci retracements before we continue to go lower. Either way, we're going down. That's all I can see. And we go down to the hourly time frame to get a little more detail. Whoops, wrong button. Fresh. Hang on. refresh. There we go. And nothing really changed. The only other thing I see now is there's another area of supply before we get to the 4-hour. So we may end up stalling out in this area, which is 46.95 to 49.59, rather than making it all the way up to 41.445. That is, if we can even make it up there. So we're getting more and more selling opportunities that are presenting themselves along the way. Anyway, we'll go back out to the weekly chart here. We'll jump over to Ethereum and see what's going on there. On the weekly chart of Ethereum, no demand there. Anyway, on the weekly, we made a lower low, and we're just kind of basing right now. It doesn't look like we've got a whole lot of momentum in either direction. So it might just be a little flat. As far as the daily time frame, as we jump down there, we can see we formed kind of a zone that's already been used twice. Maybe multiple times. You can go all the way back here too. These have all been tested, and then you get a new one that gets tested. And even this now tested. So it's been the same pattern over and over and over again, which means this is your newest zone now. So if we get another rally, that should be what we test. 29.17 to 30.44, and each one of these previous rallies to a high usually takes you down to some fresh lows. So, if we're going to make some new lows, let's see where we're possibly heading. I don't see any kind of demand nearby. So, looking back, well, we could run into that. That's the nearest demand. You got rally, base, rally, 2045, 1945. I would say that's your target to the downside. I don't know. We could go lower. This has already been used. I don't have anything that looks like a great zone until way down here, and that might have been interrupted already. So if we get that big move down on Bitcoin, it could take us down to 758 on Ethereum as well, if we have that move down to 19 or 18,000 on Bitcoin. But I don't see that happening right away. Initially, what I'm seeing is a move. If we do try to rally up to 29.17, expect to sell and drop down to 20.45. If I take this down to the 4-hour time frame, see if there's any new zones that appear, and there are. As you can see, we've had kind of stair-stepping on the way down. So these are all little zones on the way. Makes it a little annoying because it's going to be harder to trade this, but that's the higher time frame. I just want to mark that differently. Here are the lower zones. There we go. 1, 2, and 3. Now, this is a retracement. It looks about a 50% retracement of the most recent drop on the 4-hour here. We go from open of the candle to the bottom of the move. Oops, wrong key. There we are. No, it's a little bit more than 50. It was 61.8%. So if we're going to continue to impulse to the downside after this little retracement that we just have had, well, we can measure that potential move. And there we are. We have our downward targets if we continue to break to the downside. So looking at about 25.71, then 25.01, 24.51, and 23.88 eventually. So lots of bearishness. I don't know if we see anything else if we go smaller. On the 60-minute time frame, looks like we stalled out, not just at the Fibonacci retracement, but there is also drop, base, 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 and drop. So that became our supply that we turned around at. So yeah, it does look like we're going to continue to break to the downside here. XRP, I'll go to the weekly chart. This has been one of the bigger movers today, although it's just given back half of its move. It was up earlier today about 6%. Now it's only up 3.9%. Anyway, looking at the weekly chart, we did bounce off a strong weekly demand here. And fix that. There you are. So you can see we bounced off that a couple weeks ago. Actually, it's been about a month or so. Anyway, we're continuing our decline yet again. And we lost a lot of momentum, so it's going to be a very slow move if we continue to decline. And you can see that, yeah, just downward trend overall, still there. So I don't really have anything exciting to report. This is really kind of dead in the water. We're just moving sideways. You can see that we were moving sideways in our momentum as well. We're kind of stuck, really not moving anywhere. So going down to the 4-hour time frame, I would expect this to continue to drift lower, but I just don't see any sort of zones or anything to be able to enter into quality opportunities. So just be careful. As far as demand, this is not fresh anymore. It was actually a retest of a prior area, so that's likely to break. And really, the nearest demand that I'm seeing here, besides that one I saw on the bigger time frame, is now 64. Let's get that right. 63, 853, 62, 184. That's it. That's our next area of demand, as you can see right there. So I would expect this to continue to drift lower. I don't see any great entry points for any kind of shorting opportunities yet. So just be patient. And we can even take a look at the 1 hour. See if anything pops up there. And it doesn't really look it. We may try to find a little bit of a bounce here, as we do have a little bit of buying pressure that comes in. 73.66, 73.12. But with the bigger time frames to the downside, I can't see anything other than a little bounce here. There is another one just below as well. So we could get a couple little bounces. It's not as clean as the other markets. So if you're looking for strong shorts, I would definitely look at Ethereum and Bitcoin over XRP. This is looking a little bit stronger. As we saw, we had an extreme move to the upside. We were retracing quite a bit of it as we speak, but I'm not really looking for long opportunities here. Everything just looks very, very weak. Looking at Cardano, I'll start with a clean chart. Obviously extremely bearish. And it doesn't look like momentum's ending. We've got plenty of room to go. Other than that little wick that went through this area, this is your nearest demand. And the wick could obviously throw it off. So we got lots of room down. Go down to the daily time frame. And again, not seeing any great momentum. You have rally base and drop right there. This was a drop base drop that's already been used. So I don't even think we're going to get up to that higher supply zone. Looks like we're getting ready to break to the downside now. The only saving grace is we do have a divergence going on, meaning prices are trying to make new lows, but the indicator is making higher lows. That usually precedes a rally. But if we do rally, I would say it's capping off at 1067. That's your fresh area supply right there, and I don't see us being able to get above that on this next move up, if we do move up at all. So take a look at this smaller time frame and go back to see if there's anything else. No, not really. Again, that wick kind of throws everything off. I don't know if that's good or if it's bad price action, if that actually happened. So I'm kind of ignoring it. But our next target, if we do move down on the daily chart, I would put it at 45 cents. So what I'm seeing right now is if we can rally up at all to 106, then we're clear to fall to about 45 cents from that 106 area. So going down to the 4 hour, see if we can fine tune this at all. Any more data? And same sort of thing. We had a lot of little stair steps down. Our most recent was drop, base, 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 and drop right there. We've already tested, so not seeing much out of that. Just be careful. Going over to Solana. Oh, it looks like the same chart. Anyway, we go to the weekly, same thing. Lots of moves to the downside. It looks like these have all been duplicated, so I've done this before. We're looking for it to continue down. Lots of selling pressure on the final candle. We go down to the daily time frame. And let's clean this chart up here. I'm not really seeing anything different. Rally, base, base, and drop. Good supply. So lots of potential selling pressure. Rally, base, drop. Already been used. Right there. That's a really good supply zone. And it worked. Now, this low did not yet go below 40. So we're getting a lot less bearish momentum, which means we're probably going to start going a bit sideways, as you can see. Momentum is dying off. Prices are getting mixed, red and green kind of mixing in, and sideways movement. So I wouldn't expect a whole lot of momentum out of this in either direction. We can go down to the 4 hour time frame. And we don't really have any good demand here. We're getting a little bit of a pullback. What I was saying before, we had that nice move down. And therefore, we are retracing. You can see we're at 23.6 right now. That's all we've done. So if that's the only retracement we get, that could give us a pretty good move to the downside to follow. I could use my Fibonacci extensions to predict our next move down would be 78.48 with the follow-up 70.60 or even 65. We continue to move down. If we're not done with the retracement, we might be able to go a little higher. I would expect this to stall out. If it breaks this area that we're in right now, I say this is our next target, and this would be a great shorting opportunity right there. And the reason why is you've got both this zone, drop, base, drop, and the Fibonacci level inside, which is the 50% retracement. So I would expect another selling opportunity about 95.24 if we break to new highs here. So you might be able to take a small long and then reverse and look for the short down to those targets that I gave you. Again, we're looking at about 95.24 for the entry. Put that in right here. It lets me. Yeah, come on. Delete that. There we go. And it was 95. Whoops. 24. There we go. So that's what I'm looking at in the middle of the zone for the entry. And again, the target number 1, 78.48. Target 2, 70.60. And let's see. Yeah, we can go down to 60-minute before we move on to Polkadot. Not really seeing anything different here. You can see, again, same area. And notice with this rally-based drop, that area is right in line with my entry spot I was just talking about. 95.31 to 95.24. Very close. So that's looking even better. So Polkadot, man, this looks like the same chart, doesn't it? We go for Solana. All these are very, very similar, right? So Polkadot, you see the same thing. I can work my way up from here, I suppose, but got an area supply on Polkadot right here at 1810, 1789 as we're trying to climb our way up. Let me go to the big picture, though, first and work my way down. On the big picture, we're coming close to a weekly demand. Did we hit that yet? Yeah, we did, I think. It's the low here. 1405.77. Yeah, 1407. So we did. We hit the demand on the weekly time frame with a positive divergence and bounced. This momentum indicator can help you out a bit. You see prices made a lower low coming into the demand, but the indicator made the same lows. So that's why we bounced right there. But it's a very weak bounce. We're not getting a lot of follow through, so I don't see it continuing very well. So maybe able to push down more. And as far as next demand, we don't really have much. Now these lows, 520 maybe? Yikes. Yeah, 554 is what I'm looking at there. So we go down to the daily time frame and see what we've got. Well, we already turned before or at supply, so we missed this opportunity. There was rally-based drop. There it was, already turned. So if we do rally, I don't know if we're going to make a new high, but if we do, next area, right there, rally, base, drop. So you got 2164, 2317 is your next overhead supply. Could potentially look for some short-term moves up to that area before it turns around. And then if it does turn around in that area, let me refresh. Yeah, I don't really have a good measurement here. Take a look back. Nothing there. There it is. No, that's not good, but that's a retest of this. Might be all the way down to the 520 area I was just talking about. Oops. Remove. There we go. So, yeah, because of positive divergence, we may get a little bit of a bounce. Well, we already did, so we may not get a whole lot more out of this. But if we can, 2164 is where I'm looking to short again, targeting the 871. And let's see, we're on the daily chart. If I go to the 4-hour time frame to get more detail, see if there's anything else along the way. Well, nothing really. See anything great standing out. We're bouncing off this demand as well. We're way too low in the momentum to go much higher. It looks like we're getting ready to roll over again. And we do have a, that's kind of too weak. I was thinking there might have been a demand here, but there's really not. So even though I thought it might be a little bit of a bounce, the area to enter, if you're going to try to play the bounce, it'd be a little risky, but there it is. You got drop, base, and rally. We broke out of prior highs. 1708, 1787, there might be an opportunity to buy. And the target, let's see what we got. Oh, we got a rally-based drop right there. Not a very far target, but it's not too bad. 1795 to 1810, target number one. And ultimately, as I said, that overhead supply at 2164 is your next target. So you might be able to hold on for that rally before it turns around and rolls over. But you want to book some profits right away. And that's still a 3-to-1 reward to risk off that first move. Again, on the hourly chart. Let's see, is there anything else in the way? Keep us from getting that? Maybe. There might be a little bit of stalling in this area. Rally, base, and drop. And that's 2050 to 2073. So again, what I'm looking at right now is a potential bounce off 1708, 1687 with a move up to the 1795, eventually up to 2050. Ultimately, I think we're going to reverse at 2164 with a big drop then down to some new lows. So that's what I'm seeing on the cryptocurrency side. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit like. Appreciate that. And also subscribe to let me know you want to get more videos as well. Until next time, trade safe, trade well, and take care, everyone.